she once told me. I want you to be happy, even if that happiness isn't with me. Then she ended up sleeping with my closest friend. A week later she collapsed. Now she's pleading with me to cover her hospital expenses. She called it freedom. I called it betrayal. Doctors said she had 6 months to live. And in the very first month, she opened our marriage and slept with someone I'd known since childhood. Not once did she ask how I felt, only how she wanted to feel alive before dying. But now, lying in a hospital bed, tubes down her throat and tears running down her face, suddenly, I'm the man she claims she's always loved. Before I go on, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who believes in karma. Because the twist you're about to hear might leave your heart trembling. We were together for 12 years. Rachel, the quiet girl I met in college, had turned into a woman who once said, "Even if I had just one day to live, I'd want to spend it with you." But things change when illness comes into someone's life. When she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, it wasn't the world that broke, I did. Every sleepless night, every chemo session, every time I fed her a spoonful of soup, I kept reminding myself, she needs me. She's just scared. Until one evening, I came home from work earlier than usual. She didn't hear me walk in, but I heard noises, moaning. They were coming from the guest room. Froze. The guest room door wasn't completely shut. And what I saw through that small opening still haunts me. My best friend shirtless, her back arched, her wedding ring still on her finger. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She simply pulled the blanket over herself and said, "You said you'd support whatever made me happy. This is part of it." I packed my things without saying a word. She didn't stop me. She believed I'd come back when the anger faded. But I didn't. Then, just a month later, the message came. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I'm scared. I need help. I don't have insurance. Please." I left it unread. But when the hospital called me 2 days later, they said she had no one left. Not even the man she had the affair with. I couldn't ignore that. I stood quietly at the entrance of her ICU room. She looked like a shadow of who she used to be. Pale, fragile, afraid. Tears streamed down her face when she saw me. "I know I hurt you," she whispered. "But please, just help me. You're the only one who ever truly cared." I pulled the chair beside her, looked her directly in the eyes, and quietly said, "You wanted freedom. I want closure. Let's make a deal." She blinked, confused. "What do you mean, a deal?" she asked, her voice faint behind the oxygen mask. I leaned in, calm but firm. "I'll pay your hospital bills, every single one. But in return I want the truth. No more lies. No more excuses. Tell me everything. How long it lasted, what you told him about me, and why you thought I deserved that kind of betrayal." She turned her face away. I didn't plan to fall for him. Just, it felt exciting. like I wasn't dying, like I was still wanted. I let out a bitter laugh. So, to feel alive, you destroyed us. She reached for my hand, pulled it away. You know what hurts the most, Rachel. I didn't walk away when you were weak, but you walked away when I was strong, standing by your side, ready to carry your pain. Silence filled the room. Only the sound of machines and her shallow breathing remained. Then she said something that cut deeper than the affair ever could. I always knew you'd forgive me. You're too kind. That's why I did it. I knew you'd stay. My jaw tightened. That was the moment I understood. She didn't just betray me. She used my kindness against me. She counted on it. I stood up slowly. I'll speak to the billing department. You'll get the best treatment possible. But not out of love. Out of debt. You owe me and you'll repay me. Not with money, but with truth. As I turned to leave, she called out softly, "What happens after I recover?" I turned my head slightly and replied, "That depends on how honest you're willing to be. 'Cause Rachel, you think the worst part was the cheating. It wasn't. It's what I discovered after you cheated. And that's what will decide what comes next." Her eyes widened. Panic flashed across her face, because in that moment she realized I knew more than she thought. That's when the real nightmare began. Not for me. For her. That very night she began texting me. Long frantic messages. Apologies. Regrets. Promises of truth and change. But I didn't respond. 'Cause I was busy. Busy meeting with Michael, her affair partner. My former best friend. He looked pale, like he'd seen a ghost. When I walked into his garage, "You shouldn't be here, man," Michael muttered. I gave a small smile. "You're right. I should be home. But you burned that bridge the moment you stepped into my guest room, with my wife." He tried to explain himself, calling it a moment of weakness. So I pulled out my phone and showed him a picture. His face went pale. "Where did you get that?" he asked. It was a screenshot, proof of a secret bank transfer. $22,000, wired from my wife's account to his 2 weeks before I caught them. Was that part of her healing too? Asked coldly. He looked shaken. She said it was just a gift. That you were abusive. That you didn't love her anymore. I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. So she fooled both of us, huh? Then I told him clearly. You're going to tell me everything. Every message, every plan, every lie she told you. Or I take this to the IRS and let them investigate how a broke mechanic suddenly got 20 grand from a cancer patient. He broke immediately, confessed it all. Turns out, the affair didn't start after the diagnosis. It had been going on before she even got sick. For nearly a year, they had been secretly meeting behind my back. She had even thought about leaving me, until she got her diagnosis. Suddenly, she didn't want to die alone, or without money. And that money she gave him, it wasn't just a gift. It was hush money. She paid him to stay silent, in case she didn't survive. And the worst part, she drained our joint savings account to do it. All those years I worked hard, saved diligently, while she stayed at home. She took everything behind my back. I walked out of Michael's garage with only one thought. I wasn't going to destroy her in anger. I would do it calmly, strategically, one step at a time. That night I called her doctor. I told him I would cover her medical expenses, but under one condition. She had to be moved into a long-term care facility. Not the hospital. Farther away. Quieter. Less comfortable. The doctor agreed. When she woke up the next morning, she wasn't in her private hospital room anymore. She was being wheeled into a shared hospice, 2 states away. She cried. She screamed. But this time, no one came. I had completely erased myself from her world. But I wasn't done yet. Because the next part, that would go public, started with one email. The subject line: "To whom it may concern, you deserve to know who you're donating to." I sent it to every local charity, cancer support group, and online campaign that had ever shared Rachel's GoFundMe. Yes, she had created one behind my back. Over $80,000 was raised by kind-hearted strangers who believed her story. A story that painted her as a loyal wife, left behind by a cold and heartless husband. She even used my face in her campaign photo. My words, my tears, without asking me. So I returned the favor with proof. Screenshots of the affair. Bank statements. The payment to Michael. Even a message where she wrote to him, "Don't worry, he'll pay for everything. He always does." It didn't take long. Comments on her fundraiser were filled with angry donors demanding refunds. 2 local newspapers picked up the story. One headline read, "Cancer patient scams public, betrays husband and gets caught." I watched it all unfold from my apartment couch, sipping coffee. No anger. No regret. Just closure. But that was only phase 1. Because karma wasn't finished with her yet. 3 weeks later I got a call from Rachel's lawyer. She was now broke. Her GoFundMe account had been frozen. Michael had vanished. And the care facility had warned her. Without full payment by the end of the month, she would be discharged. Then I heard her voice over the phone. Trembled. "Please, help me one last time. You've made your point. Get it. I was awful. But I'm still human, Aaron. I'm still dying." I took a deep breath. "You're right," I said. "You are human. And dying. But so was our marriage. And you buried it long before cancer did." She begged again, saying she had no one left. That's when I gave her one final offer. "I'll pay, but not for your treatment. For a confession video. You record the truth. Raw, honest, unedited. And I'll cover every expense until your last breath. Otherwise, figure it out on your own." She hesitated at first, then agreed. The next day I received the file. In it, she stared straight into the camera, pale, fragile, and crying. "My name is Rachel, and I betrayed my husband. Cheated. Lied. I stole. I used my illness as a shield, and I regret everything." I sent that video to every single person who had ever supported her. I sent that video to every group that had doubted me, every friend who judged my silence. And then I uploaded it. Within hours it went viral. Rachel finally got what she had always craved: attention. But this time, the world wasn't praising her courage. They were witnessing the downfall of a woman who gambled her marriage and lost everything. But the story still had one final twist. 3 days after the video exploded online, I heard a knock at my door. Not a call, not a message. Just a knock, like something straight out of a horror film. Opened the door, and there she was, Rachel, wrapped in a faded hoodie. She had escaped the care facility. No phone, no car, just a desperate look in her eyes. "I had nowhere else to go," she whispered. "Please. I'm scared to die alone." I didn't say a word. I just stared at her, like looking at a ghost that refused to disappear. Then she dropped to her knees on my porch. "You win, Aaron. You win. I've lost everything. I don't even blame you anymore. Just don't let me disappear like this. Please." And in that moment, for the first time, I didn't feel anger, or revenge, or even satisfaction. Felt empty. All this time I thought revenge would bring peace. But watching her break, not as a manipulator, but as a dying woman with nothing left, I realized something. She had already destroyed herself. I didn't need to finish the job. I helped her to her feet, quietly. No hugs, no comfort, just basic human decency. I let her sleep in the guest room, the same one where she had once betrayed me. For days she barely spoke. She just ate, rested, and stared silently out the window, like she was watching the final chapter of her life unfold in slow motion. Then one morning I found a letter on the kitchen table. In her familiar handwriting it read, "I thought cancer would be the thing that killed me. But it was never the disease. It was my choices, my pride, my fear. I destroyed the only person who ever truly stood by me. I don't expect forgiveness. But I hope one day you find love again. The kind I never deserved." That same morning she was gone. No note, no goodbye, no call. Just a quiet exit. Like she knew her part in my story had come to an end. Weeks passed. Then one day I received a package from a legal firm. Inside was a death certificate. Rachel had passed away, alone in a public shelter. But included with the certificate was a letter, signed by her. She had left everything to me. The last of the donated money, her remaining assets, her personal belongings, all gifted to me. To the man who gave me more than I ever gave back, she wrote. I didn't keep a single cent. I donated every dollar to a cancer foundation, one created in her name. But this time I included the full story, not to shame her, but to warn others. Because sometimes, betrayal wears the face of the person you once loved the most. And sometimes, closure doesn't come from revenge. Comes from peace. Share this story if you've ever been hurt, used, or betrayed, and still found the strength to rise stronger. And remember, karma doesn't rush, but it never forgets.